Okay, good morning, everyone. This is our penultimate topic, statement of cash flows. That is what we are going to do today. And then there is only one more section left, that is financial ratios. So basically, we have almost covered our syllabus. So this is the topic before the last. So today we are referring to chapter number 16, which is on statement of cash flows. Statement of cash flows, right? So I hope you all can hear me. Right. Okay. Fine. And you all can see the board also. Okay, the board is visible, right? Right. Okay, fine. So now what we are going to look at is today, this is a topic where I would say not regularly tested, but there had been questions here and there in the papers. So for the sake of completion, we will have to do it. But the topic is, of course, not fully tested so far. Right. So why I would say that is, you will understand while we are doing it, because the essence of statement of cash flow is not yet tested. So I don't know whether it will be tested, because sometimes what happens within the permitted time, you might not be able to do a complete statement of cash flows question. So maybe because of that also, the examiner might be avoiding giving you a comprehensive question. So, okay. But anyway, we have to complete this topic. So let's start with that. So what are we trying to understand here? Now, every business, you know, there is assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay. This is the fundamental. Now, all increases or decreases, say your assets might go up, liabilities might go up, or assets might go up, capital might go up, assets might come down, liabilities might come down. So many things can happen. Within a business, there can be changes to the assets, liabilities, and equity composition of the business. So there could be two reasons for such happening. One is where there is an involvement of cash. Okay. All transaction involving cash has an impact on these three. And there are also, which we call it as book entries. I have spoken about this earlier also. Book entries means it doesn't involve cash, but has an impact on this. Say, for example, you make a provision for depreciation. Now, by making a provision for depreciation, it doesn't have any impact of cash, because you will debit the depreciation expense account and you will credit provision for accumulated depreciation. So when you make such a provision, it doesn't have an impact on the it doesn't have an impact on cash. Similarly, you might make a bad debt provision or impairment provision, what we learned last time. So all these doesn't have a cash involved. Okay. But when it comes to LKS 7, which is on statement of cash flows, that purely talks about cash. What is the cash impact that the business has? Or what is the outcome of cash the business has? That is what it is. Its focus is. So for a reader or for a shareholder or a stakeholder, when they look at financial statements, they have the income statement, they have the statement of financial position, they have the statement of changes in equity. So, which basically talks about your assets, liabilities, and equity. Okay, which talks about your assets, liabilities, and equity. So, for a reader, yes, you are already providing 3 financial statements, which are known as the primary financial statements. But whether this company is a cash-rich company, or whether their cash flows are either in good state or in bad state, how does the reader comes to know about that? There is no evidence or proof within the 3 statements that we spoke about in a reader to look at. So as a result, the accounting bodies thought that there should be another element which talks about the cash position of the company. And this is not merely the cash position, because in the in the balance sheet, under assets you have cash, but we are not looking at the static position of cash. What has happened as at the year end? No, we are looking at something like what made this cash position to be reached at, or in other words, what we are trying to understand is, let's say, at the beginning of the year, that is 1/1/2020, and now we have 31/12/2020. So let's say you have cash position of 5 billion, right? That is already available in the balance sheet. But what the reader would be interested to know about is, let's say, at the beginning of the year, you had only 2 billion. At the beginning of the year, you had only 2 billion. Okay, that is the opening balance. Now the closing balance is 5 billion. So what made this to go into 5 billion? How did it happen? What are the ups and downs? That is the information that the reader would like to know about. So the statement of cash flows is trying to establish this information to the reader. Okay, this information to the reader. That is what we are trying to learn now. So any movement in cash, in other words, will be the reflection of this. Let me give you an example right now. Let us say that you purchase a fixed asset. You buy a vehicle to your business. So what do? You will debit motor vehicle account and you will credit cash. So what happens there? Cash goes out. Cash goes out. So there is a reduction in your assets. But meantime, what is happening? You are bringing in an asset called motor vehicle. So again, the assets will go. So there is an up and down, or ups and downs in any of these components in your business. Now this is what we are trying to establish under this statement of cash flows. Okay, statement of cash flows. So let's go into the presentation. Okay. So first we are talking about cash flows and fund flows. Cash flows and fund flows. So statements of cash flow are a useful addition to the financial statement. That is what I have been explaining to you, because it recognizes that accounting profit is not only the indicator of a company's performance. So when people talk about performance, they merely talk about profits. But profits are not the only concern of a business, because if they don't have cash, then they are not in a position to run the business, because cash is ultimately the survival for the business. So statement of cash flow concentrates on the sources and uses of cash. That is, how you are getting the cash and how you are using it. Sources means the ways in which you are getting the cash, and users means how you are using it in your business, and are a useful indicator of a company's liquidity and solvency. Liquidity means the amount of cash or cash equivalent that you have to run the business, and solvency is whether you can continue your business. Survival of a company depends on its ability to generate cash. So I told you, as long as you can generate cash through various ways and means, then the survival of your company is certain. Cash flow accounting directs attention towards this critical issue. So why you need the cash flows is because of this. People would like to know whether this company can survive going forward. Okay, so we are trying to establish that here. So cash flow is more comprehensive than profit, which is dependent on accounting convention and concepts. This is one of the aspects that has been tested. Because why cash flow is more important than profit? Because the profit is merely made up of your accounting conventions, concepts, assumptions, principles. You may call so many things. So you apply the accrual concept for you to finalize the profit. But for you to realize the cash, there is nothing like that. No principle, no concept, no convention, no assumptions, nothing. But the profit that you are trying to establish is made up of so many other elements which we know as accounting conventions and concepts. Let us look at some definitions. Cash comprises of cash on hand and demand deposit. So now, from a bank's perspective, you know what is demand deposit is. Anything that is withdrawable within a short period. So on-demand deposits, we call them as on-demand deposits. Now that is for the bank. Now from a customer's point of view, from a business perspective, that demand deposit is like an investment for them. Because whatever the excess cash they have gone and deposited in the bank. So from the business perspective, cash means it is not only the physical cash that you have in your business, but also any short-term deposits that you have in the bank. Okay, that is what demand deposit is. Now let's extend this definition of cash as cash equivalent also. So what is cash equivalent? Cash equivalent are short-term, highly liquid investments that are readily convertible to known amounts of cash and which are subject to an insignificant risk of changes in value. So you might have heard the term liquid assets. Liquid assets means where there is an asset which you can convert to cash immediately without any loss of capital or maybe interest. Now for this, let's say you have some furniture in your business. Now, can we call this furniture as liquid assets? No, because you can't convert them into cash quickly. You have to find a buyer and then you have to negotiate for a price. There are so many issues. But what are we talking here about as liquid assets is any investment that you can convert it quickly into cash without any loss in capital or interest. Now we are talking about something called an important term, cash flows. Cash flows. Now we looked at cash, now cash equivalent, and now we are talking about something called cash flows. Now what do you mean by cash flows is, now as I explained at the outset, money is going to come into the business and money is going to go out of the business. Now this we call it as a flow of cash. So that is what, in other words, as renamed as cash flows. Cash flows. So cash flows means money coming in and money going out. The money that comes in known as cash inflow. Money that is going out is known as cash outflow. Cash outflow. And then we are going to look at three major activities. Now, from a business perspective, we are going to break them, the activities, into three broader categories for us to understand this cash flow, cash inflows and outflows. Cash inflows and outflows. So let me explain what it is. Right. Now, from a business perspective, you get involved in three types. Okay. So what are these? Now, one is your day-to-day operations. That we call it as operating activities. Operating activities. That is your day-to-day operations. You might be buying and selling goods, or you might be manufacturing products and selling them. So whatever that you do to do your sales is known as operating activity. Operating. Now, second type of activity, we call it as investing activities. The slide has the definition, but I'm trying to explain you to have an idea. Now, whatever that you do to achieve or sell your product, all those activities are operating. Manufacturing, selling, distribution, everything, all those encompass operating. Investing activities is, in order to achieve this task, you might do certain purchases. Say you might buy machinery, you might buy furnitures, all those are investing because you are putting out money. You are putting out money to get these fixed assets or equipment for the business. That is investing. Not only that, now whenever you have excess cash, what would you do? Normally we go and put it in the bank. So that is called an investment. Now even the companies will do the same. When they have surpluses from the operating activities where they generated revenue and they have made a profit, and out of that they have excess cash, means they will try to go and invest it. So when they go and make investment, that comes under investing activity. So when you are trying to invest, money will go out. But when the investment matures, what happens? You will get money. So all the inflows and outflows both are considered here under investing. Now third, that is known as finance. What do you mean by finance? Now you have to run a business which is operating, and then when you have excess or in order to purchase the required assets, you have the investing. But there could be a situation where you might not have money. There could be a situation where you will not have money. So you need to go in search of money. How? Through financing activities. Now say if it is a company which is built up of shareholders, the easiest way to get money is to go back to your shareholders. Look, we are in a difficulty. Can you give us more capital or money to run this business? So financing. That is how you are going to finance your business. So what do? You go and issue shares. Shareholders will come and put money, so you will get money. That is a cash inflow. That is a cash inflow. Now, similarly, what happens? Let's say you can't issue shares because your shareholders are not keen to give you money. Then what is the next option? You will go to a bank. Now I am talking from the perspective of a normal company, not from the perspective of a bank, right? So this normal company, what they would do? They will go to a bank requesting a loan. They will give their documentation, everything, and they will say, look, I need a loan to run my business. I need a loan to finance my business. So the loan, if the loan was given, that is the cash inflow. But the loan is not given free. You have to repay that. So when you repay the loan installments, that is also financing activity because the money is now going to go out for the loan that you have taken. So you have to settle the loan. So you will be giving out money. So the cash inflow as well as outflow, both are captured in the financing. Okay. Now, when you look at the larger companies, not the smaller companies, larger companies, they have another option. That is, they also go and issue, which is called debentures. Debentures is a corporate debt instrument. Just like the shares, where you can issue debentures to the investors, and they will buy these debentures and give you money. But the problem here is these debentures are mostly with a maturity. So at maturity, what happens? The company will have to repay. So initially, when you issue debentures, there is a cash inflow, but ultimately at maturity, when you are doing good with this money, after that you have to pay it back to the debenture holders. So you will pay capital plus interest both. But now what is happening in the current scenario, most of the companies are looking at converting these debentures into shares so that they will not pay back money, but instead they will give shares. But whatever it is, this is a financing activity. So from a broader perspective, business activities are broken into three main categories: operating, investing, and financing. And under each of these activities, there are cash inflows as well as outflows. Now, LKS 7, statement of cash flows. The objective of statement of cash flows is to understand what are the cash inflows and outflows under these categories, namely operating, investing, and financing. That is what the objective is. How these businesses are run, managing their cash flows under these three activities. So the reader will understand, yes, out from the operating activities, there is this amount of a cash flow. Under investing, there is this amount of cash flow. Financing, this amount of cash flow. Now, ultimately, what is going to happen? Ultimately, what is going to happen? Let's see that also. Now, you have cash inflow and you also have cash outflow. Cash inflow and cash outflow. So money is coming in and money is going out. So the result of this, we know, or we call it as net cash flow. Net cash flow. And this is what everybody will be interested. What is it that the companies have generated with this? Okay. So it is very important to know that you have cash inflows and outflows, but ultimately you need to know what is the net result of having a cash inflow and outflow. right? So let's look at. So what does operating activity means? Are the principal revenue producing activities of the entity and other activities that are not investing or financing. Okay. So this is the theoretical definition which you might be required to write also. So you have to remember it or either memorize it. Then investing means are the acquisition and disposal of non-current assets and other investments not included in cash equivalents. Thirdly, financing activities are the activities that result in changes in size and composition of the equity capital and borrowing. I told you, either you can issue shares or you can borrow, take a loan from the bank or issue debentures, all are borrowing mechanisms. So cash and cash equivalents. The standard expands on the definition of cash equivalent. They are not held for investments or other long-term purposes, but rather to meet the short-term cash commitments. So, which means again, it is the liquid assets which you hold to meet the short-term cash requirements. It is to fulfill the above definition, an investment's maturity date should normally be 3 months from its acquisition date. Now, we say demand deposits. Now, demand deposits may be you will have current accounts, you will have savings accounts. So you know for both these there is no maturity, because savings anytime you can get the cash. Using your ATM card you can get cash. Current accounts you can draw your money with a check at any time. But there could be instances where you might have fixed deposits, and these fixed deposits may be invested for 1 month, 2 months, or maybe 3 months likewise. So when you have done that, even those can be considered as demand deposit. That is what they are trying to say. You see here, the maturity date of these investments should normally be 3 months from its acquisition date. So anything that is having a maturity of less than 3 months will become a demand deposit. It would usually be the case then that equity investments are not cash equal. So equity investments mean that is your shares. We don't consider shares to be cash equivalent. That you have to remember. Loans and other borrowings from banks are classified as financing activities. So I have already explained to you, when the business goes and takes a loan, that is classified as financing activities. In some countries, however, bank overdrafts are repayable on demand and are treated as part of an entity's total cash management. Now, this is something different. Now, you know what is an overdraft is. So, in a bank, you can have a current account where you can establish a limit for this current account. Now, where the borrower can take money from the bank. Okay, the money can be taken in 2 ways. One is by way of an informed decision, which we call it as an overdraft with an authorized overdraft. An authorized overdraft means where you will overdraw your current account with a limit. Say you will be established a limit by the bank looking at your credibility, and then up to that amount you can draw from your current account. Now, current account normally expected to have a credit balance, but when that is from the bank's point of view, but when you go and overdraw, this turns into a debit from your perspective. So a current account can operate in 2 ways. One is it could be a debit or a credit. But from the company's perspective, when the current account has a credit balance in the bank, that is an asset to you. But the moment it turns into credit in the bank's books, the debit into the bank in the bank books, then it will be an overdraft. Okay. So what they say is, now when you are looking at the cash equivalents, let's say you have two current accounts. One current account has a credit balance of 5 million. Another current account has an overdrawn balance of 2 million. Okay. That is, one account is having a 5 million credit balance. Another account has a 2 million debit balance. Now, what is your cash position? Effectively, you will have a 3 million cash position. It is not separately taken care of. You have to add the two and see what is your cash position is. Okay. So from the point of view of the standard, LK7 requires statement of cash flow to report cash flows during the period classified by operating, investing, and finance. So then, now as of now, we know the P&L is prepared for a period of 12 months, which is your financial year. Balance sheet is prepared as at a particular date, which is the closing date of the financial year. Statement of changes in equity, again for a financial year, which covers up from opening to closing. Now the statement of cash flow is also for a financial year. It's not for a particular period or a particular date. So from 1/1/2020 to 31st December 2020, if we are looking at. So within this time period, how the cash inflows and outflows have impacted this company under three main categories: operating, investing, and finance. Okay. Now let's look at operating activities. So these are some examples. Okay. I would like you all to go through it and then I'll explain. So what we are trying to establish here is, under operating activities, is the ways and means in which you receive cash from your core business. Core business means if your business is manufacturing products and selling it, then by the sale of goods only you will get cash. Okay. So from a business perspective, anything that you receive in cash from your core business is called operating activities. Okay. So what has been listed here is all something to do with your cash receipts from your core business. Similarly, you have to consider the cash payments also. Now, say for example, you might be paying for materials, which is your purchases. That is a cash payment. Then you might be paying salaries to your employees. That is again a cash payment. So there could be a situation where people or the companies will receive and pay cash, which are all related towards their core business. Core business means the fundamental business that they are doing. They might be doing investing, financing, that is not relevant. We are looking at their primary core business. Then, as I explained to you, what are the related investing activities which are linked to the operating activities or may not? Again, you will have cash receipts and payments. So mostly here it will be cash payments, but whatever that you have made as investments will give you cash receipts again, because when they reach maturity, you will get cash again. Okay. So that is what our requirement is. So these are also related to the investing activities. And last one is the financing activities. Financing activities. Can you just go through this? Okay. So what are we saying here? Cash proceeds from issuing shares, as I explained to you. Cash payments to owners to acquire or redeem the entity's shares. Cash proceeds from issuing debentures, loans, notes, and bonds. Cash payments of amounts borrowed. Cash payments by a lessee for the reduction of the outstanding liability related to finance leases. And you can also make, I mean, there are instances where we make cash payments to the shareholders, which we know as dividends. Now, these dividends is also a financing activities because you need to keep the shareholders happy. If you are making profits and if you want to keep the shareholders happy, then you have to provide them dividend. So that is what we are asking. That is, under the financing activities, what are the activities that you have carried out with the shareholders or the funding providers? Okay, so it is very important that we need to understand all these are related to financing activities of the business. Financing activities of the business. Right. So now we come to the point of reporting cash flows from operating activities. Now, even though we have three types of activities, our focus is mainly on the operating activities. Okay, and these operating activities is the one which can differ in terms of how we present them in the statement of cash flows. So for this purpose, there are two methods available and these two methods are provided by the standard, by the way. Okay, not by anybody who have defined it. This is given by the standard itself. So what are these two methods? Is one is known as the direct method and the other one is known as the indirect method. Okay, so I'm talking about operating activities, how you will present your operating activities, for which the standard provides two methods. One is known as the direct method, the other one is known as the indirect method. Now, what is this direct method is? Direct method is where you will show all the cash receipts and payments from the major activities as it is. So you need to account for each cash receipts and payment, and you should be able to in a position to identify these. How much did I get from sales? How much did I pay for purchases? Likewise, you have to identify each and every transaction for cash receipts and payments. Alternative method is where you can't, you are not in a position to identify those means, because what happens is here, There might be sales which you have done under cash, where you might have done under credit also. Okay, so that is why we say the direct method will be somewhat difficult. But when it comes to the indirect method, the standard gives you an option where you can consider the net profit or loss of the business, and then you can adjust those for any non-cash transactions. Okay. Now this is where the indirect method comes little bit of complex, right? Direct method is very straightforward, where you receive or you take into consideration of all actual cash receipts and payments. But indirect method says you start with the net profit, because that is ultimately your cash position should be. So you start with the net profit and you have to adjust for all the non-cash activities. So what are the non-cash activities? Some I can tell you, the provisions that you make. I told you book entries. So all whatever that you have made, the book entries which doesn't involve or have a cash impact should be eliminated. You will see when I show you the template, you will understand this. Right. So the point here is, now from the exam perspective, what I can tell you is, so far, the examiner has tested you with direct method. They have not tested you with the indirect method. Okay. So why they didn't do it is because under indirect method, it is not easy for them to test it with a simple question. It can go into lens, because within the time frame provided to you, I don't think that you will sometimes able to do it also. It might take a lot of time. But provided they can give you a simplified format of information and do it also. Okay, which is also possible. But for this lesson, I have considered both, and under the indirect method, I have given you the formats also. So out of which they can give you a simplified steps or simplified question to do the question, or maybe say indirect method may not be tested also, we don't know. Okay, so under the direct method, it is very straightforward. What we need to do is simply extract the information from your accounting records. You have to go into direct into your detailed records to see how much of cash received, how much of cash paid, all those information you have to take it. But alternative to the indirect method must be somewhat easy. You do it is, you take the profit or loss and you adjust all the book entries. The book entries you already know. So that is why the indirect method, from a larger perspective of a company, big company, it will be easy, right? But doing it in an exam might be difficult. That is what I'm trying to establish here, right? Doing it as a part of their reporting framework, yes, indirect method will be easy. But doing it within the time frame allotted in the examination might not be that easy. That is what we are trying to establish here. So what are we trying to establish here? This method is undoubtedly easy from the point of view of the prepare of the cash flow statement. Why you do is that you take the net profit or loss for the period and adjust for the following, right? Following in the sense, these are only few. What we are talking about is only few. Changes during the period in inventories, operating receivables and payables. So whatever the changes that have happened in the inventories, receivables and payables is adjusted. Then you have to eliminate the non-cash elements like depreciation, provisions, profit or losses on sales of assets, all those you have to eliminate. Then other items, the cash flows from which should be classified and investing or financing, you have to remove. Because when you take your profit, it includes everything. So you have to clearly identify whatever the investing and financing activities that has to go separately. As a result, you have to remove that also. Okay. Now this is a template. Just go through for a minute. What they say. Okay. So what you see here, they are starting. This is under indirect method. Please note that. And this is a standard template, which I mean, generally this is what is used, but there could be, in the exam perspective, there could be limited items also. Okay. Right. You take the profit before tax and you adjust for depreciation. Now, why depreciation? Depreciation is a book entry. Depreciation is a book entry. So that you have to adjust. Then investment income, foreign exchange loss, interest expense. That is, interest expense is anything that you have paid for, loans that you have borrowed. Then you have to adjust the changes in inventories. That is your stocks. Then you have to adjust for your debtors. Then for your creditors, that is trade payables. And then you get how much of cash that you have generated from operations. Okay. Then you have to consider whatever the actual interest is paid. And finally, any income tax that you have paid in real terms. These are the items that you need to consider for the operating activities. Net cash flows from operating activity. Then you have to bring in the investment and financing activity. Now this is a illustration. This is an example how they have done for this purpose. You can just go through it. I will just allow you with time. You will see. Just go through for a minute, because this template is the standard template, how the companies will present in their financial statement. But for exam perspective, we are not sure how it will be tested, because it could be a simplified manner, because provided the time might not be sufficient. Okay. Right. Now, what we have looked at here is let's look at an examination question. Then only you will understand how this works. Right. Now let's look at the March 2019 question. Question number 4. What do they say? The following information is available from the books of Niagara Trading Limited. I told you this is for a company that they are talking about for the year ended 31/12/2018. So they are talking about an year end, and these are the details that they have given. Right? Just go through them. Okay. Now let's look at the questions also. These are the questions. Answer the following questions as per the applicable accounting standards, concepts, and in the information given below. You have to understand this is question number 4, which means this is for 20 marks. This is for 20 marks. So there are 4 parts, 5 marks each, and this is for 20 marks. So look at part 1. Explain 3 types of cash flows presenting in the statement of cash flows with one example for each. Okay. Now, what is this question that they're talking about? They want you to so they are asking you to define the 3 activities. Okay, so the 3 activity definitions are here: operating, investing, and financing. Now this you have to write. Then you have to provide one example for each. Now where do we have the examples? I have given you plenty of examples. You see, operating activities, I have given you about 6. Investing, I have given you about another maybe 7. Then under financing also, I have given about 5. Okay. So out of these, you have to write one each as an example for that particular question. Right? So that is to explain the 3 types of cash flows presented in a statement of cash flow with one example for each, right? So this is what it is. Then the second question: what is the applicability of accrual accounting concept for the preparation of statement of cash flows? Okay, what is the applicability of accrual accounting concept for the preparation of statement of cash flows? Now, can you think of any answer? And I would prefer, I don't know whether you are allowed to talk. Any responses in this regard? The question is, they are asking, what is the applicability of accrual accounting concept for the preparation of statement of cash flows. Now, I clearly explained to you that the accrual accounting concept is applicable for the profitability. When you are preparing your income statement or the profit or loss statement, what do? You apply numerous concepts, assumptions, principles, and so on. So when you apply those applicable to the income statement of yours, not for the statement of cash flows. Because anything that you have adopted under the accrual concept will get eliminated in the statement of cash flows. What do you mean by accrual concept? Say, for example, you have not paid your electricity bill for the month. What do? You make a provision. Based on the latest estimated bill, you will make a provision for electricity. Now, this is a book entry. This book entry will not be applicable because it doesn't involve cash. Since there is no involvement of cash, that will not be applicable for the statement of cash flows. So what they are trying to understand here is whether you know this accrual accounting concept doesn't have an impact on the statement of cash flows because it is just a book entry which doesn't involve cash. So what you need to do is you have to just eliminate it. You have to just eliminate it. Okay? So your answer could be the accrual accounting concept is not applicable for the preparation of statement of cash flows. Why? The accrual accounting concept is used by the entity to record their financial transaction at the point when they occur regardless of whether a cash transfer has been made. So you can simplify this answer and write this is the model answer that is given. But what we need to understand is the accrual concept involves recording a transaction from the perspective of accruing a liability and not involving cash. As a result, the applicability of the accrual concept is not pertaining to the statement of cash flows. Okay. Third part, prepare the statement of cash flows for Niagara Trading Limited. Now you see, this is where this becomes very important. Now this is the piece of information that is given to you. This is the piece of information that is given to you to prepare the cash flow statement. Now, what is our objective? Statement of cash flow is where it needs to highlight three types of activities. Three types of activities. What are the three types of activities? Operating, investing, and finance. Operating, investing, and finance. So now here there are few transactions given to you for you to decide what are the transactions that would have an impact on the cash flows. What are the transactions that would have an impact on the cash flows of the business? And based on those, you will have to now decide and prepare the cash flow statement. You have to prepare the cash flow statement. So let's try to understand what are the items that will have an impact to the cash flow statement. So can you just, by looking at this, I don't know whether you have the past paper, can you just look at it and mark what are the items that will have an impact to the cash flow and where it will get reported, whether it is operating, investing, or financing, because I'm just trying to establish the examination approach. When you get this question, this is what you have to do. First, identify the item, whether it relates to the cash flows, and if so, you have to mark it as which activity, whether it is operating or investing or financing. Okay, right. So let's look at one by one. Cash sales. What do you think? Cash sales means the sales that you have done purely based on cash. Okay, so that is a activity which involves cash. So it will be taken to the cash flow statement and it will go under operating activities. Operating activities. Secondly, payment to creditors. Payments to creditors. What is it? Again, it involves cash and it is under operating activities. Operating activities. Okay. Then collections from debtors. Collections from debtors. That is again a cash activity which relates to the cash flow statement and it is under operating activities. Operating activities. Rent paid. Rent paid is also an operating activity which relates to cash, involving a cash impact. Proceeds from share issue. Proceeds from share issue. What is that? Proceeds from share issue. Now this is a financing activity because the company might have had some cash issue, so they would have issued some shares. They would have issued some shares. So that 2 million, what they have done is they have issued shares and received cash. That is what they say as proceeds. You see, when you say proceeds means you have received cash. So it is a cash flow impacting activity and it goes under financing activity. Then the next item is electricity payable. Electricity payable. What do you think? Electricity payable. So if it is something payable, then it's a liability. It is going under accrual concept. So you should, by the time when you are doing this question, you have to combine everything and have an understanding. Now you know the second part of this question, they talked about accrual concept. So you have to have that also in mind, why they spoke about it. So when it is something happening on accrual basis, it doesn't have an impact on the cash flows. It doesn't have an impact on the cash flow. So electricity payable will not be applicable. Will not be applicable. Okay, that is not a cash flow item. Then the next item, equipment purchased. Equipment purchased for 1.5 million. Now, why did they purchase equipment? That is for their business. So, you know, when you go and acquire an asset towards your business, sorry, what do you consider that? That is an investing activity. Investing activity. Because you have purchased this asset as a item towards your business operation. So that will be considered as a investing activity. Okay. Then the next one, telephone bills paid in 2017. Telephone bills paid in 2017. Now, will this be applicable or not? Will this be applicable or not? It will not be applicable. Why? Look at the top of the question. The following information is available from the books of Niagara Limited for the year ended. So they are talking about a financial year which ended on 31/12/2018. So when was the beginning of the year? 1/1/2018. Now they are talking about telephone bills paid in 2017. So something which happened in the 2017 means that relates to that financial year. not for the financial year of 2018. So you have to be very careful. When you are reading the question, you have to read it line by line. Okay. Now, sometimes what happens, telephone bills paid. You might consider that as a cash payment. But very important, you see, it is in the year of 2017, which is not applicable for the current financial year. So we will not take that also. Okay. Then the next two items, very interesting. Dividends declared in 2018, but not yet paid. So what do they mean? They have declared a dividend to the shareholders to keep them happy. But they say they have not yet paid. So when are they going to pay? They will be paying it in the year 2019. In the year 2019. So we will take it to the cash flow when it is paid. Just because it is declared, we are not worried. Okay. So that item 100,000 will not be taken. But look at the next item. Dividends declared in 2017 and paid in 2018. That is a different one. This is a dividend that they have declared in the last year, but they have paid it only this year. So when you make the payment, it is relevant to the current financial year. It is relevant to the current financial year. So that will be taken. Then the proceeds from disposal of machinery. So you had some previously a machinery which you have disposed it. By disposing it, you have got a proceeds. Proceeds means the sale proceeds. Can you remember when we did the disposal of fixed assets? We credited the cash proceeds to the disposal of fixed asset account, and then you realize the profit. Now here they say the proceeds received from disposal is 300,000. So that is cash received. That is cash received. That will be taken. Then the last item, loan application submitted for bank borrowing. Loan application submitted for bank borrowing 1 million. Now, why you want to borrow? Because you are short of cash. And in this regard, what you have done? You have gone and given an application to the bank. Now, what kind of activity this is? This is a financing activity. Now, even though it is a financing activity, what this company Niagara Trading Limited has done is they have just gone and given a loan application. That's all for 1 million rupees. So we don't have enough information to say that whether that loan was given to them or it was approved or rejected. We don't know. So it is just a matter where they have gone and given the application only. So just because of that, we can't consider these 1 million as something that they have received. Okay. So you have to be very careful when you are reading the question in detail. Right. Now, I want to explain you an important part in this. Let me take the same example that is on the board. Right. Now we are talking about business activities, and we have broken them down into 3 categories also: operating, investing, and financing. So now we have gone through this question and example in the sense the transactions that are given, and based on those transactions, you know, those transactions can be now classified into the 3 categories: operating, investing, and financing. Right. Now, then we also looked at what are the cash inflows and outflows. Right. Now, there is a question: when you have cash inflows and outflows, how will we show this in the statement of cash flows? How will we show it in the statement of cash flow? Now, what we will do is any cash inflow, that is any cash that you have received to the business, will be shown as a positive number. Okay. As a positive number, that is, it will be shown as a plus. Right? But any cash outflow that you have identified in the statement of cash flows will be shown as a negative. That is a minus, or you can put it within brackets. Okay, so cash inflows are positive, cash outflows are negative. This is what we are trying to show in the statement of cash flows. Very important. So plus, here minus. Then when you add or deduct of this, then you will have the net cash flow. You see? So the net cash flow could be a positive one or a negative one, depending on the circumstances. So by having a negative one, it doesn't mean that you have a negative cash position, right? It's a net cash flow. What has come in and what has gone out, the impact of that is, okay? So you have to understand this. Why this cash flows is very important is, cash flows are shown in the statement of cash flows, and any cash flow that you receive is shown as a positive cash flow. Any cash flow that goes out is shown as a negative cash flow. So there are positive cash flows and negative cash flows. Now we have gone through the list of transactions and we have identified whether those are operating, investing, or financing. And also now we have to know whether that is a cash inflow or outflow. Because based on that only, we will show it in the financial statement. Okay. So now let's look at how we prepare the statement of cash flow. Right. Okay. Now this is how it will look like. You see? So you have to put the company name at the top, Niagara Trading Limited. Then you have to say statement of cash flows for the year ended 31st, I think it was 31st December, no? Yeah, 31st December. That's a mistake here. Then you have to break the three items: cash flows from operating activities, cash flows from investing activities, and cash flows from financing. You see the three major categories. Then you have to bring in the items in details. The first item, cash receipt from customers. Okay. Cash receipts from customers. There is 1,250. What is this 1,250 is 1 million. You already know in that list it was there as cash sales. Then they also had, let me show it to you. Right. So let's look at it. There is 1 million cash sales. Then you have also got from your debtors. Debtors means you have done a credit sale and you have got 250,000 from them. So that is what 1,250 is. 1 million for the normal cash sales and 250 for the credit sales. Then you have paid to creditors. You see, payment to creditors 500,000, and that is a cash outflow. That is why they are showing it as a minus. You see. Then rent paid, where it is shown as a negative. You see. So those are the only activities which comes under operating. So you get a 550. This 550 is a positive and it is a cash, net cash inflow. You see, there is a inflow to outflows. The net of it is 550 net inflow. Then we go into the investing activities. One is the purchase of equipment, which is a cash outflow 1.5 million. Then you also know they have sold a machinery. So by selling that machinery, you have got 300,000. That's a cash inflow. And the net will be negative 1.2 million, negative 1.2 million. So which means net cash outflow. Then you have the financing activities. Financing activities means 2 million from the share issue and dividends paid. Can you remember? Dividends declared in 2017 and paid in 2018, 150,000. That is what is taken. Then that the surplus is 1850. So you have 550 here, 1.2 million negative, 1850 positive. So add the three, 550, 1.2 negative, 1850 positive. It will give you 1.3, I think. Yeah, it will be net increase will be 1.2 million. Okay. So that is how the cash flow statement is presented based on this question. Now the problem here is nowhere it is mentioned whether it is direct method or indirect method. Okay. But you need to know that based on the information that we did now, what is this method is? Can somebody answer? What method that we have used here? This is the direct method. This is the direct method. Why? You have straight away gone and used the real cash inflows and outflows. You didn't start with the profit. Now, because if we have started with the profit, I'll show you how it would have been. You see, if you had started with the indirect method, then you will start with the profit. You see, then you will adjust all these, then only investing and financing will come. But in this question, you were not given with the profit. You were not given with the profit. So you don't have the profit given here. You are straight away starting with the real cash flows that you have got. Okay. So that is why this is known as the direct method. And the last part is, if the accumulated depreciation for the machinery at the time of disposal is 300,000, what is the profit on disposal? Now see how they are connecting another topic with this cash flow question. Okay. So that is why you can't just leave out one section and go to the examination. You can't do that. You have to know all. Then only you will get the full marks. Now, if you choose this question without knowing how to do the disposal of machinery, then you will lose out this 5 marks. You will lose out this 5 marks. So the connectivity is very important. That is why we step by step go. Now, by the time we learn the cash flows, we have already done the disposal. Okay. So here the question is, they say if the accumulated depreciation for the machinery at the time of disposal is 300,000, what is the profit on disposal? Now, to find the profit on disposal, where do we have the details of this machinery that was disposed? You see here, proceeds from disposal of machinery, and there they within the bracket say book value is 500,000. You see, they say the book value is 500,000. So now our objective is, you have a book value and you have accumulated depreciation. So now you have to find out what is the profit is. So how do you determine the profit? Book value of the machinery is 500. Accumulated depreciation is 300,000. So you deduct that. Then you have the net book value. Then you bring in the sale proceeds and you get the 100,000 profit. Okay. So let me explain it in the board. Now what do they say? Disposal of machinery. Disposal of machinery. So they say the brought forward book value is 500,000. And the cash proceeds 300,000 or 200,000. Sorry, 200,000. 300,000. Okay. And now they say that the accumulated depreciation is 300,000. Okay, accumulated depreciation is 300. So what it means, now you will bring the accumulated depreciation. So now you do the balance. 500,000, here 600,000. So you will put the higher number. So 5,600, this means there is a balancing figure of 100,000. This is the profit on disposal. So you can do it in the form of a T account, or you can do it in the form that I showed you. What one of the two can be adopted, no problem. You can show it by way of a T account also, like this, which is also acceptable. Okay, but what you need to know is how to extract information from there to here. Now in that question, in one line within brackets, they say 500,000 is the book value. So you need to identify that as at 31st December 2018, the company's cost of the asset is 500,000. Then they say proceeds is 300,000. So you know, in the disposal procedure, we followed 3 steps: removal of cost, removal of accumulated depreciation, accounting for the cash proceeds, and then you determine the profit or loss. And you determine the profit or loss. So cost, depreciation, sale proceeds. When you balance the account, you have the profit on disposal. Okay, profit on disposal is there. Right. Let's look at another question. This is March 2018. Question number 3. Again, a 20 marks question. Okay. Sorry. Before that, let's look at this question. This is one I wanted to show you. Is right. This is the one. This one will be very important to you because this is one interesting question. This is March 2016, question number 8. Okay, let's see that question. The statement of cash flows of an entity provides information on cash generated and used during the given period under specified headings, and it should be prepared in accordance with the accounting standards. Name applicable Sri Lanka accounting standard for preparation of statement of cash flow. Now, look at this question. This is again for 20 marks. Okay, and it will have 4 parts, and each part will have 5 marks. Right? So look at how easy that you could have scored marks. First part is name applicable Sri Lanka accounting standard for preparation of statement of cash flows. So you know, I told you when you are writing about a standard, you have to say Sri Lanka accounting standard, then the number and what that standard is. See, Sri Lanka accounting standard LKS 7 statement of cash flow. Now just for writing this, you get 5 marks. Just writing this statement will give you 5 marks. So you have to be very careful to write it complete. Now what happens in examination, some people say LKS 7. You don't get marks. Some of them go and write saying statement of cash flows. No, you don't get marks. So the marks will be given, please note that, when you write the answer in complete form. What is this complete form? Sri Lanka accounting standard LKS 7 statement of cash flows. That complete answer has to be there. Then only you will get the 5 marks. Okay. Then we'll go to the second part. List 3 activities that an entity presents in its statement of cash flows with an example for each activity. Can you remember the same item was there in the 2019 question? Listing the 3 activities and giving 1 example each. So, under the statement of cash flow, when you get a question, these 2 are one of the common questions. You have to identify that. So, 5 marks, 5 marks, 10 marks. Half of the marks can be scored by doing the first 2 parts. Simple as that. So it is very important that you know the theoretical part of a question. In the case of cash flows, you need to know the standard, how to write the standard in full. And then there are 3 types of activities. What are the 3 types of activities? And there are one example for each. 1 example for each. Very important. Then you can easily get the 5 marks. So these are some of the examples and the description of the activity. So you have to remember that. Third part. Look at this. The following information is applicable for Success Bank PLC. Now they are giving it for a bank itself. Huh? And that itself is a mistake, because you will see when you read the question there is a mistake. For the year ended 31st March 2015. Okay. Now they are talking about a bank, and below when you go down they say cash at bank. You see. Now this is a bank and it is having another account with another bank, which is very uncommon, because normally what we do is we have nostro accounts and those type of accounts, but it's very rare that you go and have another account with the bank, and that is also overdraft. Okay, right. Anyway, leaving out that aside, let's look at the question. So they say cash in hand 31st March 2014, 31st March 2015. They are talking about 2 financial years. But what is important for us is, when they say 31st March 2014 and 31st March 2015, you know they are talking about the current financial year, which is 31st March 2015. Then when they say the balance as of 31st March 2014 means, what is that? That is the opening balance for the financial year 31st March 2015. Okay, so you need to know that. Again, that they say cash at bank as at 31st March 2014 and 15. But look at this. Cash at bank, first part is overdraft, 30,000. I told you a company can have a current account with the bank where the balance could be negative or positive depending on the balance remaining in the account as of that day. So as of 31st March 2014, the current account had a balance of 30,000, which is negative, which means it's an overdraft. But 31st March 2015, it had been a favorable balance, which is 20,000. Okay. Then they say cash items in the process of collection. Can anyone tell me what is cash items in the process of collection is? Any idea? What is cash items in the process of collection? Cash items in the process of collection means any checks that have been deposited but not yet cleared. Not yet cleared. Okay. So cash items in the process of collection is also considered as part of cash because that is immediately realizable, and they have given it on 2 days. Then they have given some more transaction, interest receipts, interest payments, depreciation on property, plant and equipment, purchase of property, plant and equipment, dividends, issue of ordinary share capital, bonus share issue, dividends paid to shareholders. Now, what do we need to do? Apart from the first 6 transactions given here, the remaining transactions you have to identify whether it impacts the cash flow statement. If so, what type of activity it is, whether operating, investing or financing. Thirdly, whether it is a cash inflow or outflow. These 3 elements you have to identify. Once again, I am repeating it. Whether this transaction has an impact to the cash flow statement, that is to establish whether this involves cash or not. If it's a book entry, we will just ignore it. So that is number 1. Number 2, which type of activity it is, whether it is a operating, investing or financing. Thirdly, you need to know whether it is a cash inflow or an outflow. Okay, right. So now let's look at this. Interest receipts, that is a cash inflow, and it is, since it is a bank, it is part of their operating activities. Interest payments means again an operating activity because it is a bank and it is their deposits and it is a cash outflow. Depreciation on property, plant and equipment, you know that is a book entry, so it is not relevant. Purchase of property, plant and equipment, it's an investing activity. They have purchased fixed assets. So 35,000 is a cash outflow. Dividend income received, it's an investing activity because they have made some investment and they have received in dividends. So it is a cash inflow. Issue of ordinary share capital is a financing activity and 35,000 is again a cash inflow. Bonus share issue. So when you hear the word bonus share issue means it is not relevant, something to do with cash. I have told you. When we were looking at LKS1, I told you shares could be issued either for cash or for free. Free means you have to use your profits and issue. That is bonus share issue. Okay. Dividends paid to shareholders. Yes, it has an impact on cash and it is a financing activity, and the 10,000 will be a cash outflow. Now let's look at the question. Calculate cash and cash equivalent as at 31st March 2014 and 15. They are talking about 2 dates, and in that 2 dates, you are required to calculate the cash and cash equivalent. And then you are required to prepare the cash statement of cash flows. Now the first part, cash in hand, cash and cash equivalent. The question is cash and cash equivalent. So there are 6 items and each pertaining to the 2 financial years, 31st March 2014 and 15. So now you have to prepare this. What is the cash and cash equivalent? So you have to break it into 2, one for the 2014 and one for 2015, and do this. How will you do it? So you have cash at bank, cash items in the process of collection, all 3 impacting the cash and cash equivalent. So what do we do here? We will put it into 2 columns like this. You see, we will say 31st March 14 and 15, and the 3 items are listed on the left side, and you will put the 3 amounts like this. So you will have 31st March 2015, you have a cash position of 26,000. As at 31st March 2015, you have a cash position of 47,000. Now, what are we trying to establish? From 26,000, it has gone up to 47,000. So there is a change of 21,000 which has happened during the financial year of 31st March 2015. And what we are trying to establish is how this 21,000 came. How much from operating, how much from investing, and how much from financing. That is the objective. So the statement of cash flows is the objective to identify the change that happened to the cash flows and how, what are the activities involved underlying. Okay, the underlying activities. Are we clear on those? Right. So if so, now the next part of the question is to prepare the statement of cash flows for the year ended 31st March 2015. So based on the information that we looked at, this is how the statement of cash flow looks like. How do we do it? Cash flows from operating activities, as I told you, interest receipts and payments. There is a net of 21,000. Then you look at the investing activities, dividend income received, purchase of property, plant and equipment, you have a negative 25. From the financing activities, you have a positive 25. So all in all, you have a net increase of 21,000. To that, when you bring in the opening cash position of 26,000, you get the closing position of 47. This is how you present the statement of cash flows. This is how you present the statement of cash flows. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do now is based on what we learned today, okay, I would like you to go through this question number 3 on September 2017. Just give it a try by yourself. Don't refer to any model answers or anything, right? And these are the 5 questions that are given there. And then you also have the March 2018 question. Give a try to that also, right? Okay, so what we are trying to do is now, as of now, we have covered almost all the sections pertaining to your syllabus content. What we have left with is the financial ratios. So the financial ratios is the last topic that we are supposed to cover. And I hope that all of you are doing your revision work with regard to the lessons that we have learned. So we will have another 2 sessions probably. One to cover up the financial ratios, and one I would like to go through the question number 1 with you all. How to do the question number 1, because that will be what a very cumbersome one. So you need to go through the question number 1, and I would like to have one more session on that. I know that the revision classes have already started, but this is our normal routine class, so we need to complete that. So probably I will need 2 more sessions to cover up these 2 areas. One is to do the question number 1, at least one question with you all. Then the financial ratios section. Okay. So by that time, I would like you all to do a complete revision work on all what we have learned. And as I told you, you can always refer any questions, since this being an online session. I think some of the option of asking questions and me responding was little issue. So I would like you all to post any questions if you have. I think I don't know whether I have given you the email address. So my email address is kamalesh@combank.net. KAMALESH@combank.net. So please write to me if you have any questions with regard to any of the areas that we have learned so far. And please do revise. That is what is important. All what we have done so far, please do a thorough revision, because when we are doing the question number 1, it has everything. So it will be a compilation of all the things that we have learned so far. So it is very important that you need to know the basics in each of the topic, because we don't know how this question will be structured. And you know that it is a compulsory question. So anyhow, you have to attempt it, right? Because with the remaining 4 questions also, you can pass your examination, but this is a compulsory question, so you have to attempt it. So as a result, we need to know how to do that particular question. So I will need one session to cover up that question number 1. Then the other for financial ratios. So for me to do it, it will be very difficult when you don't have you have not revised your work. So please do revise. Probably by next week. I'm not sure whether we will have the session on next Sunday, or maybe it could be a recorded version also where you can go through. But the question is, before that, if you have any questions, please do raise an email, or you can give me a call to find out what it is. Okay. So please do revise, and let's catch up next week.